Alright, so welcome back. We are still discussing adjustment layers in Photoshop. This is TLC online courses, and this is introduction to Photoshop. My name is Alexander Ray. So we left off with a discussion, or I would say a deep dive into Hue and Saturation, and I'll show you some of the things I can do with Hue and Saturation in that first video, and some how I make colorful icons with Hue and Saturation. Also, we talked about filling using solid color, creating solid color adjustment layers, and also gradient fills, and how you can use gradient fill adjustment layers to mimic mood light in your picture. We showed you the light manipulating adjustment layers, the brightness, contrast, level, curves, and exposure. They are all light manipulating adjustment layers, and we look at how to use those and get some interesting effect from them. And then we started our discussion of Hue and Saturation with this image. We talked, our discussion of this color manipulating adjustment layers. Like I said, these are just we have the solid gradient pattern. We have this group. I don't know what to call them as a group together. Well, the second group, they are light manipulating layers, adjustment layers, and these are color manipulating adjustment layers. And we are up to Hue and Saturation, the second one in our discussion. So now we continue, and we're going to talk about color balance right now. So I'm just going to show us how to use color balance in it can be a really tricky one sometimes. So basically, I've got cyan, magenta, and yellow. Probably the only thing I don't have here is black to complete CMYK. And I've also got red, green, blue. So the idea here is to balance this. I can balance the color of this image more towards screen look or more towards print look. That's the idea of this. If I begin to balance things towards this way, I'm balancing towards the print look, and if I balance things towards this way, I'm balancing towards screen look. Of course, I don't necessarily have to move all sliders to the right or all sliders to the left. So I can take my reds, more reds. Of course, if I go more green and more blue, I'm back to the same thing, but more towards screen. And if I slide all left, I have the same image but balanced towards print. Let's take the yellow back to this point. Alright guys, so there's something I need to explain. While I was recording this video, I had a reason to pause it and go do something, and I came back and continued working on the video without returning it, without playing the recording. And so hence I have this list of notice I suddenly have more layers here. That's because I've explained all of this and I didn't record. So that's something really funny that happened. I thought I'll update you on that. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to color balance here. I'm just going to start revealing these layers one after the other, and I'm going to explain what I'm doing. So I already explained that these are the these colors at the left, cyan, magenta, yellow, they represent screen colors, and red, green, blue, they represent, cyan, magenta, yellow represent print colors, and red, green, blue represent screen colors. And as you balance your color here, you're basically balancing towards more of screen or more of print look. So that's basically what's going on there. And preserve luminosity here will keep white thing. So we keep white things or bright tones bright and dark tones dark. Without preserving luminosity, you notice that the lighter tones are being tinted, the darker tones are being tinted. But when you preserve luminosity, the lighter tones will try to remain light, and the darker tones will try to remain dark. And that's a feature of a couple of these adjustment layers. Let's just call these ones the normal adjustment layers. I said these ones, they affect brightness, and this ones here, I already said this in the previous video though, I just want to go over that. These ones, they affect contrast and color, and this one's down here, they're for inversion of colors basically. I remember I didn't really give you this group name. Let's just call them the inversion, just like we have in the blend modes, where this group are the inversion blend modes, this group are for contrast, and this group are for lightening, and this group are for darkening. So then, so we also have here you can choose to either be affecting the shadows with what you're doing. Let me just see if I can find areas of shadows. Here, dark tones here, dark tones here. Those will be shadows, or let's just call them colors. So right now we're affecting the shadow. Notice how we're not doing much with these lighter tones here. You can choose to affect highlights. Let me see if I can zoom in and explain what highlight is. Okay, look at this. Look at this. Let's just use our hand tool to move things. Hold on, let me press enter and get out of that. Hand tool. So yeah, notice how this is one single glass, and then you have the dark regions here and this light regions here. So this light part up here separated from the dark part, even on the same wall of glass, these are called the highlights of the glass. So that's just what highlights means basically. So by default we're affecting midtones. So that's color balance explained. Let me just set this to some effect that's popular on Instagram and other photographic apps, especially for mobile devices. So let me set this. Let me set this tint there. Alright, so that concludes explanation of color balance. I'm gonna move on down to black and white, which I have explained in a way while I wasn't recording. So I'm gonna reset this. Let me see if I can just reset all of this. Okay, so when you add white and black for the first time, you're gonna black and white for the first time, you're gonna get all of these at the middle sort of. So let me begin with the presets. You can come here and say blue filter, and basically notice how it goes through the blue values or the blue tones of represented by magenta, blue and cyan, and just switch that forward a little bit for you. So basically you're punching the blues. Of course here you're brightening it because you're going towards the brighter region, darker. Now I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm going to show you just the differences. I'm going to skip. You know what, I'm intrigued by infrared, so let's just do that. Let's check that. So right now I'm just showing us obviously all of these presets. So you can come in and choose a preset, and if that works for you, move on from there. Another thing we can do here is tint, and you can choose that tint color. Of course, this way now you're getting more of a sapphire than a black and white. That's one way to do that. I remember I showed us a way to get this effect using Hue and Saturation in the part 1 of this video. So with black and white, this is how you can get a similar effect with black and white. So that's the thing about Photoshop that I've tried to explain to us over the course of this course, that or training, that there are several ways you can achieve the same thing, the same effect, the same look, the same results on Photoshop. We've come to auto, just to automate things for us there. Alright, so I'm gonna just get out of all of that and come back to default. Okay, so again, let me just hide the black and white layer just to explain some things. Notice how, okay, you have yellows, you've got greens here, and you've got this tone of blue around here, even though it's just light falling on glass. But in terms of color, we're getting them as blue tones, right? And you've got real blues down here, you got red, you got dark yellow, and you got orange actually on the vest. Yeah, there's reflective vest, and you've got the blue. So basically what I'm trying to say is this is a picture that is filled with a lot of color tones all over the place. And in terms of black and white, these colors become values of different tones, and you can always still manipulate the color in there. What I'm saying, I can take the reds down, and I'm getting this. Now if this was a sky, if this image was image of a sky, now this red would not make a lot of difference, because the image of a sky will be filled with more of blues, at least in this part of the world. So what I'm just saying is you can adjust the colors. Right now I'm just adjusting the reds, and notice how not much is being done here where the glass is, where the blue tones are not much, they are not being affected, at least not by a lot. So that's something that can happen there. If I want to affect the yellows, I can bring them down or take them up. Notice how the road here, you've got a lot of yellow here, right? Of course they look brown, but in a way, in terms of color mixing, to get this brown you probably have to add a lot of yellow to red and some blacks and all that. I'm not going to go into the technicalities of mixing visual colors, but that's just how it is. So there's a lot of yellow in that color that makes up the ground, and that is why you say that the yellow is affecting the ground a lot more than other parts of the picture. And of course this color here, the brown, of course brown at every time is made up of a large composition of yellow anyway, so that's why you see the brown is affected a lot too. The greens, there's not a lot of green in this picture, and you can see that thing there that was green is being affected. If you focus on this here where my mouse is, notice how the green is being affected there. And on the glass too, we have some greens down here and here in the shadow area of this glass part. Then the science, where you begin to get blue. So notice now how the blue tones on the glass is now being affected. So I just want to go through each of these sliders, and of course the slide tones or color tones, just to see what they do without being the influence of other ones. Under normal circumstance, you're going to have to adjust several sliders to get what you're looking for, or just pick one of the defaults. But right now I just want to also see what is happening with each one. These are the blues, and notice what is happening with the sky. The sky has been affected like a lot because the sky is mostly blue, right? So good. So that's correct there. And magentas, there are not a lot of magentas here. So if this were a picture with a lot of purple, I'm not saying purple is magenta necessarily, but that's close, right? So if this were a picture with a lot of purple, then, or pink even, then this will be having a lot of effect. You can see it's only affecting the region here. That's why we have just a little bit of magenta tone, creating a darker shadow there. Let me see what we have there. Yeah, there. So we have a deep brown there, which has been created by adding more of magenta there. Okay. So that's black and white. I'm now gonna move to the next one, which is photo filter. This is one of the ones I used. I learned first when I started my career in Photoshop for graphic design. I'm a graphic designer, so I mostly use Photoshop. So good. This is the default. Of course, we have all of these presets, like almost all the adjustment layers have. They all have their presets. So by default, you have this, and you can select any of these if that works for you. Of course, this density will be like halfway. I've done this tutorial, I've discussed this before, like I mentioned at the beginning of this part of the video. I've discussed this before, so I'm probably not at the default layer, but I punched this all the way up. The density when you use your own, when you add a photo filter adjustment layer, the density won't be at 100, but right now I'm just putting this at 100 to really emphasize how it affects it. And most time, like I said, when you use notice how my blend mode is soft light here, because when you use this color, this photo filter, and most of this other, when you use photo filter, most time you don't want to leave it at normal, because this is what you get, and that's not interesting. You want to probably use a blending that suits your need, and in this case I'm using that soft light because that's just gentle for me there. By using shift minus and shift plus, we can move through our blend modes, and that's what I just demonstrated there. I apologize, this part of the video is having a lot of background noise. I'm recording this at an hour where people are waking up and moving around and all. Okay, so we can come here to color and select a color that we want. Maybe of all the defaults, you don't really like anything. These are the default filters. If you don't like any of this, you can simply come to color and select the particular color you're looking for and use that. I like blue, so I found myself always going to blue. Alright, so let's move on to the next one because there's not much really. So now let's discuss channel mixer. So of course, by default, I think everything's gonna be at 0, 0, 0, that about. Okay. Okay, and this constant So it's gonna, I don't know the default. Okay, I think this one is 0 to the constant. Okay, so now we can come here to, using this we can create a lot of effects to our image or pictures. Let me just start with some of the presets. We can get some black and white tones. There's another way to create black and white again. Already in this section of the course, I think I've now shown us several different ways we can create black and white. So that shouldn't be a problem anymore when you need to turn your images to black and white. So I'm just showing us the defaults now. Okay, so because now the channel is gray, let's turn off this monochrome so we can go to, so if I slide anything now, you know what, let's just come back to default. Okay, so we can adjust different channels, the red channel, the green channel, or the blue channel, or we can just mix things here directly. Now red, green, blue, that's the constituent of a pixel. The screen, my screen is a 1920 by 1080p screen, and basically what that means is that on each line of my screen I have 1920 pixels, and down this way on my screen I have 1080p pixels. And if you multiply that, that's just the amount of pixels I have that makes up my computer screen. And each of these pixels have in them 3 constituents, or 3, the makeup of 3, I don't know what the scientific technical term is, but in terms of color, think of it as pigments. Of course they're not pigment, but think of them as digital pigments of red color, green color, and blue color. So that's like saying red pigment, green pigment, or blue pigment, or red digital pigment, green digital pigment, and blue digital pigment. So they are called picture elements, and together we call them pixels. So yeah, I think I probably explained it better the last time I was doing it before the mess. So now we can adjust these pixels to create some interesting effects. Sometimes you wonder, do I have to know all of this? Of course you can just master one or a few from each group and just use that over and over. Like I said about the light controlling group, I said the light manipulating group, I said what you can do with levels you can sometimes do with filter, and that's why you see a lot of people just master curves and they don't, and levels, and don't bother themselves with most of the other ones. And here a lot of people master hue and saturation or channel mix, or this channel mixer. So you can just master a few of it, you don't have to know everything. But here it is my duty as a teacher to, or as an instructor, to help you, give you all the tools you need. How you then use them is up to you. So you can create interesting effects with channel mixer. So basically what are you mixing? You're mixing, right now I've mixed this image back to its original state. So you make, what you're mixing in essence is that the level of red, the level of green, and the level of blue elements in your colors.